Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Joining us now to take a look at the news stories making headlines around the globe is Arise News correspondent Aron Akerejola. Hello, Aron.
Yeah, good morning.
Hello, Aron. Good to see you.
Doctor, how's your weekend?
Yeah. Good.
All right. It's good to see you at this one.
Good to see you too.
Yes. All right, so we have a lot on the plate today, and let's start it off from Nigeria and tell you that the former Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Ebola Akerejola, slammed those criticizing the President Muhammadu Buhari over his statement that his West African school certificate examination was with the Nigerian Army. In a statement disclosed by Mr. President's Special Advisor on Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, the former Chief of Staff Defense, insisted that Buhari has a certificate, angered at the spate at which Nigerians lambast Buhari over his certificate. Akerejola blamed Nigeria's recording system. His words: how many years ago? 50 years. And Nigeria, with our poor record keeping and filing things into an archive, if we have an archive at all, an archive inhabited by rats and roaches, I think it's an insult, end of quote. However, clearing the air, he said that the certificate saga was an insult to the Nigerian army, noting that the time Buhari joined the army forces, there was no cutting corners.
Well, I don't think that President Buhari is going to be affected one way or the other by the protest over his having a school certificate or not. I know that the PDP is already protesting to the Independent National Electoral Commission. But I think basically, you'll recall that in 2015, there was the same controversy. It's just the ghost of that controversy that has resurrected. But what we know is that if you look at the Constitution, which is the basic document, 1999 Constitution, Section 131, subsection D, says that for you to be president of Nigeria, you must have a qualification, at least the minimum of a school certificate or its equivalent.
Yes.
Right? Now, that or its equivalent, that same provision applies to governors, deputy governors, the president, members of the House of Assembly. So for you to hold any major elected position in Nigeria, you don't need more than a school certificate or its equivalent. The same Constitution, in Section 318, provides an explanation of what is equivalent means. And if you read that section, you don't really even have to go to a secondary school, to be anything in Nigeria, because it says, you may have a school certificate, you may have a CT and GATE qualification, you may even have a grade 2 teacher's qualification. Okay? That same section also goes for that to say attendance at secondary school level, is even enough. You don't have to have completed secondary school education. Okay? It also recognizes the fact that if you have worked in the private sector or in the public sector for up to a minimum of about 10 years, once that is satisfactory to the INEC, then you can run for office. Now, further, it even says that the ability to write English, to speak and communicate in English is enough qualification. So if you look at President Buhari, any of these, of his equivalent, he will qualify under those categories. After all, he attended secondary school. Maybe he's unable to produce the certificate. The law, as composed, says you can attend secondary school. It also says if you have worked in private or public sector for 10 years, he qualifies under that category. It also says if you have attended courses or training programs, either locally or abroad, and INEC in its own estimation considers that good enough, then you are okay.
But my point is, this which you said, which is actually a valid point, and we should actually end this particular argument, but going as far as now rubbishing the army system and the army filing records, it's because you should not be doing that. Because I, for example, I have lived in the Command Army records in Lokoja. My dad was stationed there for a while. I lived there. I saw.
So you're embarrassed.
Talk for that. Talk for that day. So I have seen firsthand. What I've seen. These are Command Army records we're talking about. I have seen firsthand how filings are done and how intricate and how meticulous they are in filing systems.
I guess
so for them to come out and say that, if there's no filing system in Nigeria, and as far as I'm concerned, up until when I actually left there to go and chase my dreams in life, In all systems, I've never heard that there was a fire incident there once, or probably infestations or whatsoever.
You know, in 2015,
yes.
I mean, this time around we're being told that the president is insisting that his credentials are with the military board.
Yes.
In 2015, the spokesman of the Nigerian army came forward and said that they didn't have the records. But in any case, I'm saying it's not a matter of sentiment. Exactly. We need not delay ourselves over whether he has a qualification or not. If he doesn't have, if he cannot produce a certificate, did he attend secondary school? Yes, he did. Did he attend courses here and at home and abroad? He did. Can he speak, communicate, and write in English language? Yes, he can. The Constitution already settles that. What we can begin to say is that maybe those relevant sections about qualification for public office should be amended. True. Should be reviewed. Exactly. And there are persons in Nigeria who are saying, like the Emir of Kano the other day was quoted as saying, if you want to be president of Nigeria, you should be well educated, yes, so that you can understand the importance
elect uneducated people.
Yeah.
But that's a matter for future legislation.
True talk.
I was saying, I think the debate here is the fact that he doesn't have a copy of the certificate. Instead of referring INEC, the electoral umpire, to go get the certificate from the Nigerian army. I think that's the cross of this forth and back that we've had. It's not about, does he have it? Did he qualify for it? Yes, he did. But evidence of it is what the problem is here.
Because I'm coming from the fact that General Akerejola is actually rubbishing the entire filing system in Nigeria. All because probably it's to favor the principal.
Well, that's another issue. If a person claims that he has a certificate, once you make the claim, yeah, it will look untidy for you to now come around to say, oh, you know, maybe cockroaches and rats have eaten your certificate. I mean, the issuing authority can confirm, you know, but you know, in Nigeria, everything gets politicized. True. But I don't think that that's going to be a big issue in his own case in the 2019 general elections.
Yes. All right, let's leave Nigeria and let's actually focus on what things going on in Africa. And let's tell you that children in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo are dying from Ebola at an unprecedented rate due to largely poor sanitary practices at clinics run by traditional healers, the health ministry said on Sunday. The impact on children has been felt acutely in the city of Benin, which has emerged as the outbreak's new epicenter. Of the 120 confirmed Ebola cases in Benin, at least 30 people are under 10 years of age, and 27 of them have died, according to the health ministry's data. Many children affected by an unrelated malaria outbreak near Benin are thought to have contracted Ebola at the clinics run by traditional healers who also treat Ebola patients, said Jessica Ilunga, a spokeswoman for the health ministry. Congo have suffered 10 Ebola outbreaks since the virus was discovered near its eponymous Ebola River in 1976. The current one now ranks third in terms of number of casualties from confirmed cases.
This is heartbreaking. In 2014, when we had that global Ebola outbreak that touched parts of the world, including Nigeria, I remember reporting it. I had to even go to the First City hospital in Lagos Island, where Patrick Sawyer, the imported case, ended up, and then Dr. Dadevo and her team attended to him. The problem with Ebola is it's very contagious, and if you do not take it seriously, it spreads like wildfire. And I think that's what's playing out here in Democratic Republic of Congo. Remember, again, this is where it all started, as at that time the country was Zaire. And it's hard to see that up to now, they still treat it with kid gloves.
Well, I wouldn't say they treat it with kid gloves. What you are facing is a crisis of public health management, not just in DRC, but also in other African countries. About a month ago or so, the various countries in that region decided to come together to collaborate, to work together to see how they can, you know, as a regional body, contain this crisis. But it's most unfortunate that rather than go down, the problem is still escalating. But I think that, you know, the neighboring countries will have to help one another. Another issue out here, again, why I talked about public health crisis, is the role being played by traditional healers, you know, who seem by their methods, you know, sophisticated methods to be spreading this. And I think that the authorities in Democratic Republic of Congo, you know, will need to pay attention to that. And if they need international help, you know, they should not hesitate in asking for that international help.
But Doctor, talking about the international help, sometimes I look and say that sometimes we are our worst enemies, because they say some international aids are being given, and the U.S. CDC, for example, have been told to leave Congo because of the unrest in Congo, whereby people are getting killed, people are getting kidnapped, and the rest of them. And it actually is becoming counterproductive to those who have actually come in from international bodies to try to help Congo. And you look at this and you say to yourself, they are facing a major crisis. In the northern Kivu region, they claim that 155 people have died since this new epidemic sprung up.
Kivu is just by the border with Uganda. And you know what the international community cannot afford is a humanitarian crisis in the whole of that region, knowing how, you know, communicable Ebola is. But also there is a message there for even other countries beyond that region, you know, because you could have the whole of, you know, Africa being affected. And that's why it's in the interest of not just the Red Cross or the Médecins Sans Frontières or others with the necessary expertise to come to the rescue of the people of the DRC. Yeah. And, you know, in this particular case, what happened in the Patrick Sawyer case? He traveled to Nigeria.
Exactly.
You know, so that's why that response it's not a DRC problem. You know, it's an international problem.
And that's why, just in hindsight, I must actually commend the government and the Ministry of Health during President Jonathan's time in the way they went swiftly into actions, setting up centers and the rest of them, and actually curbing this Ebola crisis. And looking back, it could have been worse in Nigeria, but thank God for what happened. And right now, we can only say that we saw this we can only see this from afar off, but we're not really experiencing it here in Nigeria.
Okay. Moving on, do you have more stories?
This is a very sad story and a very particular one for me. Let me tell you that stunned Leicester City fans have gathered at the club's ground after its owner's helicopter crashed and exploded outside the stadium. Vishai Shidinuluprada was in the helicopter when it came down at about 8:30 BST time on Saturday. Witnesses said that they saw it just clear the stadium before it spiraled out of control and crashed in a fireball. 2 crew members and 3 passengers were on board. Leicester had just drawn 1-1 against West Ham United at the King Power Stadium, with the match finishing about an hour before the helicopter took off from the pitch. Really, really sad, knowing that, first of all, Nigeria actually scored in that game. Wilfred Onyedidi scored the equalizer. People were celebrating that Leicester City they're actually doing well. They still celebrate what Vishai, the billionaire, did by bringing in money into Leicester City and turning Leicester City around and creating the greatest upset in English football. And only to he doesn't learn that he died in a helicopter, because they said the helicopter always, because he always came to watch the game, every game that Leicester City, so his helicopter would always come to the center of the pitch in Leicester City at the King Power Stadium there, docked there, he enters the helicopter and goes about his business. Only for this time around, he went in there, who would have known that it would have been his last time of actually leaving the King Power Stadium. And really sad,
it's been reported as an accident, but that does not make it less unfortunate,
really unfortunate,
less tragic. And you see the tributes that have been paid to the Thai billionaire. You know, he's been described as a loving family man, as a kind man, as a generous man, as a gentleman. And under his watch, he took Leicester City from nowhere to win the Premier League in 2016. In his honor, also, the next match in the EFL with Southampton, which was supposed to be tomorrow, has been postponed. But, you know, the real tragedy is not just for sports, but also, you know, for all persons
he was the second richest man in Thailand.
Who were privileged to have known him.
Because I'm just thinking about his family and how Thailand will feel this impact. Because in all fairness, because some people want to point to the what they call it, the pilots that were manning this particular helicopter, and they're claiming, and there are talks that they are veterans in the aviation sector
and
his partner well over 20 years, and helicopter, it's just thinking about it and who the man is and what he stands for.
But this one, the suddenness of it was also the surprising thing about it.
Surprising. I'm just wondering, I can't but wonder what happens to Leicester City, because Without it, that certainly the family might want to keep their stakes in Leicester City, but it will not be like, because the man loved the club, loved the city, and he invested heavily in the club. Really, really sad.
God rest his soul.
I must say, God really rest his soul.
Thank you very much, Aaron. Thank you. Doctor. Always a delight to have you on the morning show.
It's always good to be here. It's always good to be here.
Well, that's all on the news headlines. We'll take a short break now.